Okay, hello, it looks like we're live. I have this starting screen up for the first time. Doesn't look too great just yet, but I think it's gonna work out. I can make it say whatever I want there, which is part of the fun. I think it would just be fun to customize that later on. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and switch this over to the other thing. It's over here, let's see. Excel D20 Tracker. There we go. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and fit that to the screen. And before we kind of go into this, there was something else that I've been working on yesterday that I don't know if this is something that would be particularly useful to anybody, but I've made it. It's a sentence breaker. Now, I call it a sentence breaker because it just breaks apart a sentence, and it would be helpful if you could see it. Let's see here. Here it is, sentence breaker. I wanted to call it a word breaker because I think that sounds cooler, but unfortunately it's more of a misnomer, and I think sentence breaker makes a little more sense. But anyway, so here's this, and I'll get into the D20 stuff in a little bit. Maybe I should have started with that, but it's okay. So basically all it does is if we type a sentence here, this is a sentence. I don't think that's how you spell sentence, but regardless, it breaks it out. And there isn't a particularly amazing use for this, like in this sort of sense. This is another test of the word breaker. That's a misnomer. I don't know if I spelled misnomer right either, but regardless, it does that, which I think is pretty cool. And I built a little word search tab here, so we could search for any word that may or may not appear in this list. This goes to the 100th column. I think it's CX. And then it goes down to 1,000 rows. So each sentence or whatever block of text appears here can have 1,000 or 100 words in it, and you can do this up to 1,000 times. I think that's enough. It actually really lags out the Excel program if I do this. I built this partially for another project that I'll probably be working on a little bit later, or a lot later, but this is something that was going to be necessary though. A use for this that is actually practical is for when you kind of import data into Excel. So you would pretty much just need these 4 cells here. I have this one hidden. I'll go ahead and unhide it here for talking about it purposes, because the cool part is how it works, of course. And so let's say you're importing account data, and you know, if you have a list of accounts and you have the description and the amounts, sometimes, you know, I'll just show it what we want it to look like. So we would have, say, the account here. You know, who knows what this is related to, but maybe that's what your account number looks like. And then you would want the description of the account. Maybe it's inventory. Not that that would be a particularly amazing account name, but you know, it is what it is. So we have that, and then we have maybe just our amount. Now, it would be great if this is how it always looked, but that's not always the case. Usually, it looks something like that. And, you know, maybe there's, you know, okay, that's actually not what I wanted to show. It's more like text join, I think would be a better one. We'll just use spacebar as the delimiter, and then I don't know how to use this. Nor empty? True, I think. I might be wrong, I'm not sure. Don't use a lot of text join. Perfect, okay. So, it did exactly what I wanted. But it might look like this, basically. So, this is a very simple example, but it does actually break out the account, the description, and the amount. And it makes it more usable. And you can just kind of copy this, paste special so that it would actually work. But anyway, that's probably the most practical one. And it doesn't matter if you have, 5, 6 spaces between the word here and maybe, the amount. It'll still go ahead and just break it out properly because of this helper column here, which just concatenates this and a space. I'll get to that in a little bit. But it trims this, so it gets rid of all unnecessary spaces, and then just adds one space at the end. That space at the end is actually necessary to get the last word as a note, and that's kind of what that's doing. But anyway, so how does this work? And I swear we'll get to the D20 Tracker in a little bit here. But basically, we have this part. So we'll start with just a very easy sentence. Hello world. Why not? It's me. Yeah, okay. So this again only matters if you have multiple spaces. It gets rid of that. But we go here. So this first one, it's saying, okay, we want to use the left function, and we want to take the text here, and then we want to find the first space. And then pretty much here, find is saying, where does the space pop up? I think in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll return 6 is what's happening here. And then left is saying, okay, we want to return 6 spaces, and then everything to the left of 6 spaces. So it produces the word hello along with the space there. And that's what's going on there. Then we get here. At this point, we can just drag it over. So this will be the last thing we have to evaluate. But we're going to go ahead and get a little bit closer here so that we can actually see the formula. So we got a standard just if error. This is just what cleans it up, because there's a lot of errors here that we just don't see because we got the if error, which is just always a nice one to add in there. But we're not going to worry about that. It's just make a space bar so don't actually see anything. But anyway, so the second one here is attempting to grab the second word. And so we look at hello world. And so we want to find 2 things. We want to first find the first space here, which, as we say, is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is at the 6th spot. And then we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the other space is at the 12th spot. So we want to go ahead and start by finding the first space. We need to know where this is. And we can do this using our first search here. And so we take the length of this, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's actually 6. We don't actually see the space here because it doesn't show up at the end, but it's actually there. So this is actually 6. This isn't 5. And we'll get into this part in a little bit, why there's a concatenate here. But for now, let's just pretend that this is just C2, because it's just easier that way at the moment. So we get 6. So we know we have this first spot of 6, and then we need to go ahead and figure out the spot of the next space. And so we use our 6 as a starting point. And we say, let's see, where is it? I think we use it, I think here. We say, okay, we want you to find the next space, and starting from the 6th position, basically. So that way we start there, and it's looking for a space after that. And then it appears at the 9th or the 12th position. And so we'll have both numbers. We have 12 and we have 6. And I'm just explaining what it does. I can't remember exactly what each part of this does. I just know how it works. So we have 12 and we have 6. And so basically we can say, we want to use mid now, and mid will start where you want and then do a certain amount of numbers after that. And so we know that we want to start in the 6th position because that's where the first space is. And then we want to go over a certain amount of spaces after that. And as it turns out, the difference between the total length of the sentence less the beginning part here, so this hello part, so you do whatever this is, less the total, will be able to return you the number of spaces that you need. So we're able to know where to start, and then 12 minus 6 is 6. And so we only want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only want those amount of spaces there. That's just how that kind of works. And it's really nice that it works out like that. And so we can carry that forward. However, as we continue to go, we need to take into more and more of the sentence into account. And that's what this concatenate here does, because now we're asking for the length of not just hello, but when we get to here, we're asking for the length of the concatenated version of hello world. And so in this case, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then it just repeats the formula after that and does the same kind of math problem. And so it just checks, checks, checks. Right here, technically, this is an error because there's nothing else left and the formula fails. So that's where the if error runs in and puts a little space here, and that's how it breaks it apart. As a note, this last part here, if if that was the end of this, it wouldn't actually show up. It would produce an error, I believe, because it becomes a negative value or a 0 or something like that for the final sort of check when it does the math problem to see how many spaces to go or something like that. But basically, there needs to be just one space at the end so that we can get this final word. And that's just what the helper column does. It trims this so there's only one space in between each of these and also puts a space at the end. It's not actually an issue if there's multiple spaces here, but we'll just have gaps in here, and there's no real reason to have that. So the trim just kind of fixes that. So one more thing before we actually get on to what we were supposed to be doing, what the title of this thing says, is this part, the word search and the count and count wild. So this is pretty simple. Again, this will come into later. I'll kind of leave this as a bit of a teaser for, what I could possibly want to be doing with this. But anyway, so this is actually why I made the sentence breaker yesterday, because I was messing around with wild function or wildcards for Excel. So things like the asterisks, the question mark, and I didn't actually use the tilde, but the tilde as well. So if you don't know, the wildcard functions allow you to sort of, I think the way they put it is like a fuzzy search, I believe, is the term. So an asterisk would allow, we'll start making examples here. We'll say, okay, you have the word test, I don't know, tast, and to best. They're not really, this is not a great example, but it'll get the idea across. So we'll do an equals count if, and our range is going to be right here, comma, and then our criteria is going to be T. Technically, we could actually use the question mark here, ST, and then we'll get the return 3. The question mark just saying, we don't know what this middle letter is going to be, but it's going to be something. And as long as there's something there and everything else is met, it'll count it. Now in this case, we could go ahead and put the asterisk there as also, and it would still work, but that's not particularly the best use of the asterisk. Where the asterisk really kind of shines through is, is when you don't know, actually this is a good one, when you don't know how many characters extra you're going to have. So let's say for whatever reason it was like the word bread, but they had multiple exclamation marks at the end, or bread question mark, and just bread period, and bread for that matter. So in this case, we're able to say we don't know if there's going to be any sort of ending punctuation at the end. And of course, all of these would be technically read separate, but if we use the asterisks here, we can account for both situations where there are multiple characters after, single characters after, or whatever it is. Probably help if I drive that all the way down, but basically that's the use of the wildcard functions. And so in doing a word search, we can have the regular count. So we'll do the same sentence here, but then we'll put an exclamation mark on this one, and why not an @ symbol? Well, that's interesting. I didn't know it would do that. But let's see. So if we did hello, we would get our count of 1, and it actually found hello. But then we get a count of 2 here because it actually realizes that hello was written here with the asterisk. And so that just kind of catches that. And it's not reading from here. It's actually checking this entire area, table, I guess you could call it. So it's looking in these cells right here and not here. And so it only checks for what's been broken out as a word, which the qualifier is just that there's no spaces between it. And that's why this is kind of becoming a difference here. I think this is particularly helpful if you're trying to analyze the text, to know that, okay, it's mentioned once, but there are cases where something came after it or before it, and we can kind of decide whether or not we want to use this or this, being as this is more all-encompassing, but this is far more exact. So I think, what was the other one? I think world? Yeah, okay, world. World pops up twice and gets a wild count of 2, which makes sense because it's just all-encompassing. So it pops up twice there, and I guess the last one, me, we get the 1 count and the 2 count. And to me, that's particularly interesting. I think that's a good reason to have both of these. And of course, you could extend this out and have different sort of modifiers or checks for the wild. It doesn't have to be like this. You know, you can definitely go a lot farther with it than what I've done here. And I guess just the tilde. Just to explain it, it's if you ever want to actually search for an asterisk or a question mark or a tilde, and that's the reason for the tilde, so you can literally search for these, not have a fuzzy search pop up. But these don't actually work with the find function for some reason. I kind of assumed it would, and it just doesn't, and that's kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. So that's that. But anyway, so we'll see this a lot later from now when I plan to use it, but there's a little teaser, something that will be coming up at some point. So we'll go ahead and hit the save button, and we'll go ahead and close it out, and we'll actually get to what we want to get to after about 20 minutes. And it looks like it did not show up. There we go. Okay, the actual D20 tracker with this title and everything is actually supposed to be about. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually get into this. I decided a few things while I was thinking about it this week. This stuff I'm going to go ahead and get rid of. I understand that there's probably some statistical significance that comes with these ideas here. I don't think I'm wrong in that. However, I don't know what the statistical significance of it is in terms of like what pattern we'd want to see. So as far as I'm concerned, it's completely useless to me. And I don't really feel like looking up the statistical significance of the differences in the die to see if it's at all an indication of cheating or something. I just believe that there should be some sort of pattern that you would see with that. So we're going to go ahead and just get rid of it. And if someone ever wants to implement it anyway, it'd be relatively easy as the data is in a very patterned format and already has the information that you would want. So what are we going to go ahead and do today? That was a proper sentence. For one, we're going to introduce this idea, the checks. We're going to add that in so that we have a separate graph for each of the different types of charisma, dex, int, strength, wisdom, cont, so that we can see it individually versus just the roles by themselves. Basically, my thought process on that is, let's say you're more strength oriented. It'd be nice to see on a graph that shows that you're doing more strength checks than you are other checks. So you're relying on what your character's good at rather than just doing whatever you want and not getting as good of a result. So it's sort of just making sure you're playing to your strengths, basically. Now, that would be particularly helpful for me as I hardly ever play to my strengths and just do whatever I want. And I would never use this because I like doing whatever I want. But I think it would be fun to build and it would be interesting to see. And who knows, maybe it would actually change the way I play if I saw I was not kind of relying on what could actually make my life a lot easier in these sort of games. So we'll go ahead and add that. The other thing that I want to add will be a way to track the individual sessions. So what I mean by that is if you have one session, I'd want to be able to look at the individual stats for that session and be able to compare it to other sessions. 1 second. Sorry about that. And I think that would be nice. One, because it's fun to see the individual stats for the day, but also because you could see sort of a time-lapse growth. Just, are you improving in your rolls and your checks? And obviously you should be. As you level up, you get better modifiers. It should be easier to hit the checks even at lower rolls, I believe, at least. Maybe I'm just completely wrong on that, but I don't think so. So you can just kind of see that. You see your damage go up over time. Maybe damage taken would also inverse. I don't think it would be inverse. I think it would also go up just because you'd be fighting harder enemies. You'd have more health to play with. But regardless, it might be something interesting to look at. Maybe you don't die as much later on. That would be kind of nice to see. Or maybe you die way more. Who knows? But that's sort of what I'm thinking at the moment, that it would be nice to sort of be able to see that. And I think the best way to do that is by using the dates. So I would probably go ahead and put it here, and then we'd move that over. Well, we'll just leave it there for now. So we would say session. And instead of having, say, you type in the session or whatever, I think we can do this a little bit better. So you would have to decide what you would want to use. I'm using dates, I think, because I know that, say, if you use a splicer, no, not a splicer. I can't remember. I think it's like a pivot table function or a chart function, but you can graph things over time. And you can compare different time frames to each other. And so assuming a session is a day, and I believe that would be reasonable to assume, you wouldn't do 2 sessions in a day. You would just call it 1 session. That the date is a pretty valid thing to use. And of course, date also goes up every time. Like, it's never going to be a negative date. Like, basically, it's never going to be 1/28/2022 ever again. It's unique, and it'll always go up. So to me, that's 2 good things about dates, using them in this kind of idea for the session. And I bring all that up for a few reasons, because for the first point, we have the first date here, which would just need to be here. This would not be a formula or anything, but the rest of this will be. And so what I want to do is do a equals max. So it'll be just that. And then we drag it down. So now we have a formula that checks whatever is directly above it. And so let's say, we'll just say that this right here is our session 1. And so we'd be done with the session. And then we would go to the, we would go to the next day. So next day would be 30/20/22. And now it adds everything below it as 30. And then let's go ahead and say we have another day. And so now we're at 1/31/2022. Well, now we can kind of see how this could be really helpful, because we've blocked off the sections here. So we have our first session, our second session, and our next session. And so having it this way, we can actually use the dates to summarize data. And if we do use dates, we can use stuff like the equals today function, so that we can pull stats just for today. And, you know, obviously that kind of hinges on you using dates and filling this out the day of, which would make sense, of course. But, you know, it's not that hard to just change this to whatever session you want so that you're always looking at today's session. If you used numbers, just like 1, well, we'd have to undo the date here and turn that into a number. So we use 1, and we'll just pretend that it's dragged down. We can still do the same thing. Now it goes to 2, and then, you know, 3. So we can still have that same idea here with numbers if you wanted to do numbers. But in my mind, sessions, like doing date, is just a bit easier in a way, especially because there's just a shortcut for it, which is Control:, and that'll just input the current date for you. Plus, as I said, you can do an over time look for like a graph or something like that, or like a line chart. I think line graph? Yeah, line graph. You could use date as, say, like the x-axis, and y could be damage, dealt, anything on here, basically. I think that would be more interesting. And of course you could use numbers, but I think dates are just a little bit easier in that kind of term. I know dates are still technically just numbers, but regardless, I'm just saying I'd rather use dates because I'm biased for it, and I'm the one making it. So I get to say what it is and isn't. And finally, I want to go ahead and make a different version of this. So we have this one, which is built pretty much for one person to input everything. As I said before, you know, it's relatively easy to add a new person into this. You know, this would just be P5 or whatever initial, and then, you know, you just drag over yada, yada, yada. But I want to make one that's actually based on tabs as well. So to use the same base here, actually pretty much everything will be exactly the same, but it would be for one person. So each tab would be a new player. And in a way that might be a little bit easier too, because if you have a new player, you know, you just kind of copy it over, and now you have 2 charts, and you just delete your stuff, and then you just have to make sure you're on the same session. You know, maybe we could have like a summary tab somewhere. You know, obviously some of this, you need to have a little bit of Excel knowledge to understand how to increase formulas, or rather like drag formulas over, change the graphs, update it so it includes more data. But overall, I think even if it's just from like an individual standpoint for comparison purposes, it would still work out relatively nicely. And you wouldn't need to know all that extra stuff, just how to input it. So that's kind of the plan. So making this for one person, and then sort of making one with tabs for each individual person, and then just like a summary tab that does a comparison for everybody. And we'd probably do something like percentages for comparison, as I think that's a little bit more fair than, say, total rolls, because freaking rogues will just roll all day, and it is so time consuming to just sit there and listen to them roll for all of their like 90 abilities. Anyway, that is not an at any particular person, but they just take forever to do a turn. And comparing that to someone who does like 1 or 2 rolls, it's not really fair, because then of course they're rolling far more, and so they have a higher chance of getting other numbers. Basically, you get the point. Doing a percentage basis of your own rolls and comparing it to other people makes it just a little bit more fair, at least, or rather a little bit more it's a better comparison. That's what I'm getting at. So anyway, that's more just the idea here. I know I've been explaining quite a bit without doing anything, but I think it's important to set the stage for the plan and the reasonings behind it, because if we don't have that, then we don't really know where we're going to be going. And of course, it does kind of allow anybody to say, okay, well, no, I see why you meant that. And a lot of this, again, is meant for more than just me to be doing these sort of things, to have input, to have ideas added into this, but until then, I'll just continue to kind of express my thoughts on why I'm doing this and give some sort of reasoning behind it, so that there is a good idea of why we've done why we did. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into this. I think right now the rolls themselves are already good. We have our damage dealt, taken, all that stuff. And this is, of course, just the summary of everything. So we're going to go on ahead and make some stuff that checks for this. Now, one thing that I've been trying to think about is how I would write this. Now, of course, this kind of comes down to personal preference, and you know, I think I'll try to make this also one of those things where you edit it in one spot, kind of like the player names where it'll update everywhere else, and then you can just type that. Because I imagine some people would be okay if charisma equaled C D I S W K, and then just use that because they knew what it meant. But some of the people would probably just want it to be its actual sort of shortened versions: char, dex, int, strength, whiz, cont. I think I'm going to keep it like this for now, but I'll have it grab from another area so that it's easily editable. But we'll go ahead and get started here. Oh, and almost forgot. Modifiers. That was another thing that had been a recommendation, that I introduce a way to add modifiers here. So it would be pretty simple. This would be roll modifier, and I guess check type would probably, I don't know. I feel like at the beginning makes sense, because whenever I played D&D, it would be, okay, do a strength check on the door to see if you can open it. So you would know the type of check before doing the roll. Now, that of course could be individual to my D&D session, and other people could have it done differently, or maybe they don't even know the checks. But I think having it here at the start makes more sense. So we say, what's the check type? Okay, it's charisma. Okay, what'd you roll? I rolled a 12 plus 2. So that would actually be a 14. Now, I don't know if I'd want something that had both a check for the raw roll itself and then the modified roll. I feel like it's not too big of a deal either way, because as long as it adds together, like, where is it? This is percent difference. Do we not have any? Right. This is all we have. So we would just do, oh, maybe we could do sum, I guess. I don't think it's particularly necessary to do sum here, but I feel like you might want to do something else. Like you might have, I don't know, a secondary modifier. I don't know if that's a thing. If you have like multiple modifiers. Is that actually correct? Let's see, that'd be 14. Is that the difference here? Why do we even have this? Well, let's actually check it against like a 9 roll. Okay, so that is correct. So that is at a win at 11. So we're good there. And of course, if you don't have the modifier, it becomes a loss. Okay. Yeah, that works. Okay, that was pretty easy. And of course, as always, it's just like a simple tab. And in this case, I think you would know your modifier if you're rolling it and your DM maybe didn't roll already. And again, I don't think everybody actually sees DM rolls all the time. And so it might not be possible to get this extra stuff, but that's, you know, it's something that some people get. So having it there at the end as like that last thing you enter, I think makes sense still. And of course we have damage dealt, damage taken. One thing I was thinking about was it might be nice to add a healing tab as well, if you are a healer, as well, that's your job. And you might just want to know the stats over time, how much you've healed. And I guess that brings its own things, because if it's an individual healing spell, you would heal for like 20. Well, that's pretty cool actually for 20. More like 5, what am I talking about? Or you have like a mass healing that would heal everybody for 5. And I don't know if you'd want to like specify the difference between that or whether you think it's important or not. I imagine it wouldn't really matter too much to you as long as you know like the raw amount that you've healed. I've never really played a lot of healers, so I don't really care too much. But I think I would care just about like the raw numbers. So if I did an individual healing spell for 5, I'd want to know 5. If I did it for 5, but it was to a group of 3, I'd want to know that I did 15. And I think that's fine. You can do the math in your head. So we'll go ahead and do that. But on this one, I think I would want it here, heals, but I would hide the tab so that we go hide. You can just tab right past it if you're not a healer, but if you are a healer, you can have it unhidden and it's right there at the beginning. I think that's fair. Just because it would be annoying to have an extra tab that you would never use. Or maybe, you like to have it there if you heal yourself and you don't want to give any credit to anybody else, which, that's fine. I guess that even brings it further. We could even be more specific. We could ask, like, what player did you heal? But I think that gets to a point where I don't really care. And I think just regular normal heal. So I think this will be what we want. We have our check, we have our roll, we have our modifier, we have the DM's roll, and then we have whatever your move is. Did you heal? Did you deal damage? Or did you take damage? Though, of course, if you're doing a charisma check, you didn't actually really, like, you probably didn't deal or take any damage. I mean, maybe you took damage if you were being pretty rude because you rolled a 1 and they hit you, or you started a fight or something. I mean, I guess technically you could have taken damage by like a charisma roll, but, what if you succeed a charisma roll? So you got something done. Well, you might want to have some way of notifying that it was a success, that it was a good roll. So we'd probably want one more thing in here. And we'd want it, I kind of want to include it at the start. Well, we can move these columns later. A sort of a way to notify that you've won in some way, that you passed the charisma check. Because checks don't usually have like a roll against the DM per se. It's just like a pass or fail. Like if you strength check a door, but there's no DM roll that you're checking against. You just win or you don't. And so we'd probably want something to recognize that so we could see how often you're passing. So we might want that like here before the DM for the check pass. We'll call it check pass. I think that's fine because this in a sense might happen more often. Well, I guess realistically it kind of depends. It would happen sort of when you're doing like exploratory phases or in-town phases. While the damage dealt, damage taken will be done while you're in a battle, obviously. Or I guess if you fall and get a trap. So I think it's fair to keep it at the beginning. And realistically, you could just hide the extra columns when you're in a battle. Or maybe I can have something that does like a sort of check or something. I don't know, check. Nah, I think this is good enough. We can just hide them if it doesn't matter. So this will be the regular stuff. We'll have the check, the roll, the modifier, check pass, maybe like YN or something. So maybe this is YN. And so we'll have to have a separate check as this is, we'll go, this is outcome just for roll difference, roll diff. So that's roll difference outcome, percent difference for that. And then we might not need 2 extra columns here, but we'll go ahead and leave them here. So this would be, I guess, check pass. And then it would just be equals if this equals y, right? Yeah. Comma, if that's true, pass. If not, fail. So I guess, I mean, technically you could write x here and it would fail, but we'll just say it's ym, as long as you know that y is pass. I could, in a sense, make an area so that you could change all of this, but I mean, yn's pretty standard, so I don't think there's a big issue with that. But I think for later stuff, having a sort of modified variables section might not be too bad of an idea, just for anybody who really wants to modify exactly how they're running this. But anyway, that'll be for much later. We still got to get the base stuff in here working. Okay, so we would then have I guess we'll just do this, equals check. So we'll have we'll probably do this on a separate tab. So we'll go ahead and open up a new page so we can see what's going on here. New window. You can't see that yet, but in a second. Just trying to line it up here. Okay, I think I do this. Then I click here. Those the two of them? Looks like it. Shoot. Okay, I think I'm supposed to move this one closer. I'm still getting used to this OBS stuff. So, this little smaller. No? Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to make this one bigger. Let's see here. Like moving it around. I believe I can move it here on the screen somehow. Oh, there we go. It did it. Okay. And then I can do that. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Okay, I think that's enough room. We'll do that. Okay, that's good. So we'll go back to our tracker tab here. And let's see, we've got our roles. That's recording that. So we'll go ahead and start over here. And we'll do our players. Don't know if that'll mess up. Okay, so that's all good. Though I don't think I wanted the DM. I don't know how the DM got in there. I think that was Excel just being Excel, trying to do a quick fill or something, a flash fill. That's what it is. Sure. Okay, so we have our 3-3. Aw, forgot player 4. Sorry about that. There we go. We've got our 4 players here. So we want to go ahead and determine the check and the pass. I think we'll get a raw counter here going first. We'll do char, maybe like char pass, char fail. Oops. There we go. Okay, we'll move this over because I don't remember what the acronyms are. And that dex pass, dex fail, int pass, int fail, stir pass, stir fail. I might want to make these separate later on, but for now, since we're just doing aggregate counts, I think we're okay to group them up. And can't fail. Okay, so we might get rid of the space here to make this a bit easier, because I'm thinking we can do a concatenate. Actually, we can just do this. Make our life easy. Do equals count. So we got count ifs. Well, we're going to do count ifs actually on this. Let's see, criteria range 1. Be over here. And I don't remember, I think, yeah, we're allowed to do this. So that's our criteria range 1. We want to lock that in. Okay. Try that again. Our criteria is this, and we lock in the 30. Let's see, that should be correct. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're good. Let's go ahead and get to criteria 2. And it's going to be, I think this works. I might change this up a little bit so that we can do a count a little bit better. Come on, just show me the other one. Come on, just one more row. Thank you. Okay, so our criteria range 2 is going to be this ampersand this. I believe that works. What I've done here, it should say combine O and N to do the check. So our criteria 2 is going to be that it matches this. And we ran into an error. Shoot. Okay. Let's practice that a little bit. So equals. Oh, you know what? I'm silly. I should have done like a concat. Let's see. Let's try it. Let's try concatenate here. I could try this outside of it, which would probably be a little bit better. But let's see. So concatenate. Comma. That. Okay, doesn't work. I'll try one more thing. You could literally have it be that. One second, I'm gonna sneeze. Hopefully that didn't catch on the mic. Okay, and hit enter. And hit ampersand, not enter. Char pass. And then we don't need this. Shoot, we need that. Instead of 07, we'll make this, what is it, B7, I think? C7. There we go. That works. Okay, that's a little bit easier too than doing some concatenate BS. So now we can go ahead and have that. Doesn't need to be exact either, which is nice. The comma criteria range 2 can just be this, comma this, and we lock in the A. Perfect. Okay, so that's working. We can drag this all the way down. Let's make sure. So count fail or can't fail. Did I want can't or can't? What did I put here? Maybe it's CNT. That's a bit dangerous. We'll do can't. For now, maybe K later on. And then we should just be able to drag this across. And we'll go ahead and check this. Don't need that anymore. Go ahead and drag this down. Okay, so it's not counting this because we forgot to add the extra bit here, which says C7 ampersand. Don't know why it did that. Oh, probably because of numlock or something. Ampersand. There we go. Okay. And it's all on player 1. We have our decks, cool. And why did they just pop up with fail? Because there is no modifier on them. So you know what? I just thought about this. This probably should say y should do this. So if true, pass. However, if but I'm thinking that we run into an issue because not all of them will always be these sort of checks, I guess. I don't think, at least. Like if you're doing damage, that's not a strength check, technically. I guess it depends on the roll, but for instances where you're not worrying about that, so you don't fill it out, we don't want anything to just automatically be put there. So we'll actually start off here that if equals this, then nothing, comma, if f7 equals y, and then have that. And I've messed it up somewhere. Let's see. f7 equals this. Return nothing. Not if it's false. Might want to add the equal symbol in there. Okay, let's go ahead and check it. Perfect, okay. Except that it's not actually dex failed didn't pop up here for anybody. Let's see, this is player 2, dex fail. Looking for dex fail. That's odd. So it works here. Wait, when did that get there? Was that always there? Am I just blind? Huh. Okay. Wait. I was checking the wrong cell, wasn't it? Why is this on 00? Oh. Always lock in your cells. Really important. There we go. Okay, that would have taken a while to figure that one out had I not just put something there by accident. Okay, so we have that, and we're calling the checks. So that works. Now we have that recorded and checked here. So let's see. We have our check types. We'll pretend that maybe you didn't have a check type or you didn't feel like putting it in. Add your 15 to modifier. Okay. Now I think this is the case with DnD, that if you're not doing this, then if you're not doing anything else, you'd still need like a pass or fail check. Like only when you roll against the DM would you know that there was a pass or fail. And I guess you're not always rolling against the DM, because in 5e you roll against, I think it's AC. So you wouldn't actually care about the DM roll in a sense in that case. You would just say, did you pass their AC? Okay. So I might want to keep this in and have that changed a little bit so that the check pass stays here. You still have the DM roll section, but it won't actually always go. And we'll consider a check not just this, but a check, like a damage check. So like an AC check, I think is what you would really call it here. So we'll leave a sort of a chance for either of those to be possibilities. So let's go ahead and see here. We might want to change this out then, because this is doing the fun check of negative positive. This is just a roll diff outcome check. Maybe we don't even need this. Maybe this is pointless. You would just do like a pass or fail, because this kind of comes into this. And it only matters if you know the DM roll. So you could just still as easily put a YN here and the DM stuff if you really wanted to. Or, you know, we really could just leave the DM out of it entirely and have you just say YN instead. I mean, realistically, we could build one for a DM as well, but that would have a lot of other requirements that I have no idea about. So I might go ahead and remove this, as keeping track of the DM stuff is kind of annoying since it would be every player keeping track of it too. Yeah, I think I'm going to make an executive decision while no one else is around to get rid of the DM role section here. And I think we don't need both of these up for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and go back to just the first one. Go ahead and just drag that over so that I can see more of this. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of the DM stats here. Goodbye, DM. Forgot that cleared this too. So then do that. Go to our tracker. Delete the DM. Oh, right, this is DM. Okay, and they're gone. We'll worry about moving all that stuff later. Not really important. So let's see here. So we got all of our players, we got our checks, rolls, modifier, YN. That makes it a little bit easier. So this is for the check pass, and this is maybe for the pass all. This is actually a pretty easy one if this equals Y pass. There we go. Though we don't want this. That's right. The exact same thing that we just talked about. If Y okay, equals Y pass. Okay, there we go. I don't know how far that went. Don't remember. Let's see. That's odd. Would have thought sort of gone farther to match. Okay, there we go. Now present difference, we can also get rid of this column. Let's go delete, shift left. Probably should have done shift up, but that's okay. So we have our pass all and we have our fail. So let's just make sure that would still be the case here. So if this was a Y, this should not have popped up, right? Oh, because it's based on that. Ah. So for these, we're going to do if and. So if, technically we would want this as it would be C7 does not equal a blank, comma, and F7, right? Equals blank, is that what I'm saying? No, I'm looking for this does equal blank. So if both of these equal blank, so you didn't do a check type, and that equals nothing, produce nothing. Oh, and we just want it to end here. Okay. This is still wrong. It's silly. So let's see, C, so that is blank. F11 is not. I think we just need to switch this. So make that is what happens if it's true. Does a Y check here. And then, let's see, it runs through, pass, fail. And then, that doesn't look right. So is our, so right here, we have our if true. So we want to get to the, oh, no, I was right. There. So, okay, and that's definitely wrong. So, what do we want? If C set, that's right. I wanted this to be does not equal a blank, and this does not equal a blank. There we go. Both of these are true. Then we want to say, does it equal Y? And if it equals Y, then C7 ampersand pass, C7 ampersand fail. If not, there we go. So both of these now need to be true requirements. We both need to have a check type and a check pass for this to go through. Not so with this one, which just says, is there a check pass on here? Yes, there is. Then we're going to go ahead and check. Otherwise, if there is none, we're not going to put anything there. That I think is fair. So we don't need to fill out the check type if we don't want to. We can go straight to the role, add our modifier if we want to. And then, if we don't have a percent check, we're going to want to update this to be raw roles and mod roles. Not that I think that's particularly necessary, but that brings in another question, because modified rolls, if you roll a 20, then you can actually get above 20. And that's always a really cool thing when it happens, when you can say you rolled a 22, but at the same time, that is a bit of a problem if, well, you know, for tracking purposes, what do you put? So I think the mod roll will go up to 30. I don't really know how high you'd be able to go in D&D when it comes to rolls like that. That's frustrating. We'll do mod roll here. You'd probably be able to go higher, but I think we'll stick 30 is pretty high. Like a plus 10 would be pretty insane for a modifier. I think the highest I've seen is like a plus 6, so 10's probably possible, but I don't know about above that, because I think at that point you're pretty much always passing. But it would probably be good to separate the raw from the modified. I just want to hold on to this. It's not that's particularly necessary. And 30. Okay. I still got to redo the thing, so didn't really save me that much time. Come on. Don't know why I did that. And we'll go back here to equals P1. 20 input. Just drag that over. P2 through P3, P4. And we'll delete this. Just do a little bit of cleanup there. And we'll change this to raw. Okay, so only difference with mod rolls. Shouldn't change anything. Good. Okay, that's correct. Okay, that works. So we've got that all fixed up again. Let's go ahead and see here. So all we really need to add is a modified roll check. And that would be just easiest having something just added over here. That'll just be some. Nothing crazy here. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and bring out our secondary screen so we can make this a bit easier. Let's be mod roll. Okay. So instead of BB, it would be NN, I believe. And we should see a slight change. Okay, not that big of a change. Let's see, player 1 we'll force a 1 roll in here. get rid of the mod. So that should be counting 1. Well, that would be an issue if that wasn't actually using the correct area. This would actually be BB. Always better to look at these things than just guess. Okay, there we go. Alright, there we go. That makes a little more sense. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have the ability to go up to 30. And it's pretty easy to drag down a little bit more if for whatever reason you're rolling higher than a 30, which would be kind of absurd. So let's see, we've got that. We've got our check, pass, or fail, though I think that's not working now for some reason, because that's here, char pass on player 1. This might be another issue of, yep, there it is. This is locked in and we deleted some columns or something. Okay, and there we go. There we are. Okay. We've got our pass and fail on our modifiers, which is nice. I might make these drop downs, but just so that you can really decide what it's going to be. And then if you input anything there, it'll force you to put something that's actually correct. Same with the YN. You can always type over it, but if you actually want to have the cell enter stuff, you'd have to input it correctly. So I think that's going to be how I'm going to go ahead and do that. But we got our modified roles working. We've got our check here. I'm going to go ahead and do my favorite gray. And get the border on there. Important that it look nice and boring. It's not really a particularly useful stat. Oh, we already have the totals. I think that's more useful than knowing what player 1's, like, the count of all your checks. We'll add it in there, but I can't particularly see a reason to have it. It'll just be a stat. Okay. It's something. Total. Not all of it is particularly useful to me, but if I can add it in and someone else can find a use for it, that's great. Okay. So let's see, we have win-loss outcomes, which is apparently not working anymore. BB, probably because this should say pass, fail. Oh, this was based on percentages too, wasn't it? Let's see. BB B24. That's fine, but what is this? Besides, this should be L now, huh? And we have no more ties because that was for the DM. I will clean this up later. Maybe off stream or something. Just tired of all these borders that I'm redoing. Okay, I'll do it now. There we go. Okay. So we have roll, outcome, pass or fail, our checks. We have our modified roll. We'll do a percentage for that later. For now, we have the checks, and we have our summaries. So we have a good amount of information here that we can use. And sorry about that. There we go. I think we should also do this today, and then we might call it and get the session sort of data. So we're going to go ahead and hide that again for now, just so we can have the bigger screen for one of these. All right, there we are. So we'd want this to probably be on a separate tab because we're starting to take up a lot of room here. And there's no reason to have this much space here. What am I doing? Let's see if this messes anything up. Okay, our totals is wrong, which probably messed up all of our graphs, or not our graphs, but all of our other checks. But this stuff stayed. Strange. Let's see, do any of the tracker stuff? No, all the tracker stuff is fine. It moved with it. Okay. Down. You know what? Actually, we've got a better idea. Delete shift left. That should be fine. Okay. Let's see. Got our player, our check, our roll, our mod, check, heals, which we'll deal with that later because I'm not a healer. I guess we'll move this over 1 and then forget that I've hidden this column. Ooh, that's a little frustrating. A little extra thing popped up here on the graph. We'll deal with it later. Oh, let's all this moved over. How frustrating. We'll just deal with it again. Okay. See, heals, damage, deaths, pass all, checks, mod rolls. Luckily, all this stuff here at the end just is all formulas, so it doesn't even have to be on this tab, but easier if it's just here for visual purposes, so you can know what's happening. So we can go ahead and move our graphs back. Wish we could condense these a little more. I guess we could overlap them, right? Bring this to the front. That looks pretty terrible, but yeah, that one's a little bit hard to have to do something like that. Where we don't cover that. We see what's going on there. And of course we skip player 4 there. But I guess if we zoom out to like 100%, then we'd see everything. But that's that for now. Okay, and then we want to go ahead and start doing our sessions here. So these will have to be separately tracked, but we might, I wanted to see if I can get something like this. So we're looking at this, and as we go down, now we're looking at this. But since there's no way to tell how long a session is going to be, it's a bit hard to get the data in there. So we might move these somewhere else and start using our upper area for the daily stuff. That might be it. We can have our daily stats. So let's see. We could start by having our players. Control C, Control V there. I really want to move this over 1. There we go. That looks pretty horrid without everything properly bordered. That still looks pretty bad, but we'll go ahead and leave it like that for now, because I am not a designer. Oh right, that was for the title, whoops. So we might need to give that like 2 spaces here. Let's see, this will be averages, so averages, roll, or daily. Or we'll have different stats here. So roll averages, we would do this by saying equals sum ifs, and our sum range, that's a tricky one. We could do the modified rolls, or we could do the raw rolls. But if we're looking at averages, shoot, both of the stats would be kind of interesting now that I think about it. Having an average modified roll so that you could see if you're doing, well, I guess you'd always do better than average if you're always having a modified roll, but you could see that you're lending to your strengths, I guess, if your average modified roll was higher than 10. So let's see. We'll do equals, we'll do roll, raw roll, and mod roll. So our sum range for this one will be this. Our criteria range for the first part will be this, comma, criteria 1, this. And we'll probably have to have like pages of this, just spanning datas and data for the daily stuff. But, you know, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting. We're able to do some interesting things like a graph that sort of shows up in the cell. that would be kind of neat. But anyway, so let's see here. We've got our sum range, criteria range 1, that's that. So that'll do that. And then, shoot. Criteria range 2 is our session, comma, and then I'm going to do something like shoot. We'll put it here for now. Hit enter. Okay. This should be a COUNTIF, shouldn't it? No, it should be. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. I'm silly. This is not how you calculate averages. This is just a start, though. So let's see. We've summed every single one of player 1's rolls. Let's make sure that's correct. So we've got 1, 15. Perfect. Okay. So we would want to take the sum and divide it by the count. So we would take this, right? Yeah. I'm not insane. We divide that by, now our count ifs. Our criteria range would be the same here. Criteria range would be this, criteria 1, that, criteria range 2, this, range 2, that. 8. We have an average of 8. And that makes sense, because we rolled 16. The average, if it's 2 rolls, is 8. Okay. So that's fine. Okay, so now that we're here, we should probably make this known that it's today's date, or the session date or something, or probably right here, like session number, session. So whether you want to do a 1 or a day, and we could, at least in my case, I'd rather do equals today, and then we can go ahead and have that update daily so that, you know, we see it here. And again, this is pretty easy to sort of just mess with. You can just change this back so that it's the day prior or something like that. And that's just not that big of a deal. So, like, basically, if for some reason you want to include 2 days in one session as one session, and that might lend credence if you're trying to do like numbers for the sessions, but I still think dates is a good way to do this, especially because this updates automatically. That's like the main thing. This updates every day with the today function, so I don't have to think about it. But let's go ahead and lock these in. So we want our criteria range to stay there, right? Sum range, and that is staying for this one. We don't want it to move down. And that one, we want it to stay right there. And we want that to stay right there. So it'll be the same thing here. That's staying right there. We don't want that to move down. And then this stays here. And that stays there. Player 3 not have a roll? They did. They had a 15. What did it div out? Oh, wrong day. Why did that change everyone's? Let's check player 2. Player 2 has an average of 17, which makes sense. They only rolled once. So why would changing that affect everyone? Oh, because it added these extra ones. Whoops. There we go. Okay. That was a silly one. Okay. And then we'll just if error it. Just so it looks nice. Or comma pending. Oh, that'll look kind of nice, I think. So then, if we got rid of player 3, we get a pending on there. I think I kind of like that. I think that is just fun. Okay, so we have that back. We'll just drag that down and move this over to mod roles. See, there we go. To me, that's interesting. We now have a difference here. Okay, yeah, good. That was the only one that changed. Okay, so we can see a difference in average with player 3, which obviously there's not exactly a lot of rolls going on here at the moment, but I think we would see this become more dramatic as it went on for the comparison purposes for your average rolls. Obviously this is just daily because it's fun to see the daily stuff. And then we'll do daily damage, damage dealt, damage taken. It's a little bit of a close fit here, so we'll move that out a little bit. And just always good to make sure these are as compact as possible. And luckily we can just do the same thing here. Drag these down. Instead we're summing. Aww. We're going to run that error, aren't we? Okay, so damage dealt will be fine. I guess that's average damage dealt. We'd probably want total damage dealt. So we'll go ahead and work on that. And I think that's actually even simpler. Well, average damage dealt I think would be better. So we'll actually write on here, we'll go stat, this is average raw roll, average mod roll, and then it's just damage dealt, damage taken. And why is this all centered? My goodness. Not general. My goodness. Ooh, and someone liked my tweet that I'm making a D20 tracker. That's cool. Well, thank you for liking that. Okay. Let's keep going here. So now we should be able to just drag this over and not get averages. And that's still giving me an error. Well, not really an error, but it's probably because of the above one. It's saying this isn't an average. Was there 70? Who dealt 70 damage? Player 1. So why is it saying 35? Because you forgot to take that out. You just went. Missing his opening. Well then, it would probably be helpful if I actually did it properly. There we go. 70. That's better. There we go. 10 damage. No damage. And everything else is fine. Okay. And 0 is better than pending in this case, I think. And here's where I think we'll run into an error, because we're moving it right here. So actually, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with this error. I'm just going to move this over by 1. And then we can write out the entire average and pretend that's why I did it. Actually, better yet, I can move this in. And move this over. Okay, there we go. I think if error is still pending, that's fine. And that can get moved in a bit more. All right, there we go. Let's see. So we've got our daily stats, and we can actually write that fully out. We can say daily statistics and pretend that it needs to be this wide, and not that we just tried to get out of a slightly more limited formula and writing it out. We can just do the formula like that. Okay. So we've got that. We've got all our players. It's still relatively easy to add someone to this, but I think this will be more just to get the groundwork for the individual tabs so that we can get that working. But again, if one person is dedicated to filling this stuff out, maybe if you had like a podcast or something, I don't know, and someone wanted to record this all, it'd be easier for one person to do it if they were listening back to what was going on, assuming they were detailed enough in their descriptions to get all this information. But yeah, so now we have our, we'll say overall statistics. Statistics. I think that's spelled right. It is. Cool. Okay. So we have our totals, and poor player 3 just gets all this extra room for no reason. There we go. I'll have to figure out how to deal with this column later. But now we have our daily slash, ooh, you know what? That's better. We'll call it session statistics, because that's what it actually is, even though it is daily statistics as well, because it's using a today function. deaths, I mean, like, daily like, you don't really need to know. That's like, it's so obvious that you died that you don't need to have, like, you're not going to die like 6 times in a session, so you don't need to see some average or total deaths in a session. One death is a pretty big moment. You'd want to know, like, okay, overall stuff like this. I think that's more interesting to the user than anything else. So actually, this turns out not to be looking too bad, since it just worked out that they're the exact same column lengths here. I mean, it could be a little prettier, but I think it gets the point across. This is probably in a terrible spot, but we still have some more room to work with. Okay, so we have our session average statistics for rolls and damage dealt and taken. I guess we could add like a healing one. We'd probably just add 1 extra line here. I mean, it's not going to make that big of a difference. We can still add like 6. We could probably add like this many lines and still have it be relatively easy to look at. I mean, again, we're like really zooming in here. So we still have plenty of room to play with in terms of freezing, that is, so that we can always show the information for statistics and whatnot. So let's see. This will show the daily. I guess we'd want to drag this down now. So that works. And it doesn't matter if I'd have to undo the part where I broke the formula here. But for now, we can leave it like that. Okay. So statistics, daily statistics. What else was on the checklist? I guess at this point it'd be making graphs and whatnot. Oh, I could probably, I could use this time to start converting this into percentages. That's what it was. I wanted to convert this to percentages for comparison purposes on one graph. So let's see. I think I already have some of that here. Well, yeah, we have the raw rolls. And of course, this is just working on that stuff over there. So we'll just go ahead and duplicate this. Okay, cool. I don't know why this stuff didn't copy over. Oh, it's if errored. That works. I think also we're going to go ahead and try to just clean this up a little bit. I mean, it may not be like an area that you would normally look at a lot, but I mean, there's no reason for it to look bad. We can just make these a little closer, that's all. Just so it looks like it has some sort of reasoning for being the way that it is. A little gap there. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and move this over so that it just looks a little bit tidier. Then I'm just going to Control-Z that. Do that again. There we go. Okay. So now those are the same height, and then these will be the same height as well. That way, if for whatever reason you can do more than a 30, we can go ahead and just drag both of these down. So we can do this. There we go. And then I think it's just like that. There we go. Okay. All right. And we're getting some insane percentages here, because this is, that would, that doesn't look like the right one. What is this doing? Player 1 divided by total. Okay. Of course, that makes sense. Okay. Let's make that a little different. It'll be this divided by. We'll keep the if error there because it keeps things looking nice. And then lock that in place, right? And we want that to move down. Okay. And this is wildly off. What am I doing? What am I doing? My goodness. We've got formulas here that'll do it for us. There. This is also wrong. Where are my rules? Okay. We're going to have to break out the other table here so we can actually figure out what's going on, because that is just, like, wrong. Okay. Our mod roles aren't picking up roles. Okay. So there's not a problem here. But what's happening in this cell? Okay, there it is. Guess this is the downfall of locking sometimes. Ho-ho, we got statistics. There we go. And that's wrong. That is not even what happened here. Okay. Player 2, what did you roll? Okay, we've got a roll here. And that's it. That's all your rolls. You only have one roll, right? No, you have two, supposedly. Wait. No, that wouldn't. Okay, we're gonna get rid of this stuff here for now. Should probably make that slightly more complex, but we're gonna leave it as is for now. Also, I apologize now if the bit rate or something is low. I don't actually really know what that means, but I think it means the quality is poor. So I apologize if that's the case. I'm just going to hope that you can still see what's going on here. Anyway, so let's see. Why are we getting a 50%? Oh, well. Okay. Because I only want to lock in the 32, not the entire thing. That was a bit silly. Okay. There we go. Drag that over. Okay. Well, we got that working. So now that actually shows the roles proper. Of course, in this case, we don't have anything that's going above 20, which is good for now. Then go ahead and bold that. Not that it particularly matters, but I think it looks nice when it's bolded. Again, this isn't really an area that's necessary to look at because this is just for summarization purposes and for using graphs. Oops, I hit Control N there. Okay, so we have raw roll percentage, mod roll, I should say mod roll, and mod roll percentage. Okay, so we can probably go ahead and start working on the comparison for everybody. So we'd want one more in here. I think, well, actually no, I think we're good because right here with this, we can use as our percentage check. Because again, I don't think it's particularly a fair comparison if someone has, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 2, and then someone just has like 2, 2, 2. Like that's not a fair comparison in comparing like rolls. See who rolls higher because it'll just look off because it did last time. It wasn't fair. So individual graphs for one for each player will be a good one, and then comparison should be based off of percentages. Of course, again, technically speaking, it should all average out, at least for the raw rolls. So that's actually, I think the mod roll isn't a fair comparison at all, because you'd have modifiers in different areas, so it's not a true reflection of what you're at. I guess it's like a reflection if you're playing to your strengths or not. I guess is a way that you could look at that. And so the mod rolls might provide something of interest in terms of like comparing it to someone else from like a percentage based perspective. But I don't think it's particularly useful from like a comparison of like individuals. I think with this right here, this will actually be more useful to say, okay, well, you know, this is our charisma heavy player or our dex heavy player or something like that, would be more interesting. Let's see. Oh man, we're almost coming up on 2 hours here. That's fun. But we got a good amount done today, I think. So we're going to go ahead and do our charisma, dex, int, strength, whatever, graphs here. So we'll go ahead and get some data in there that is apparently not filling up, which is frustrating. Let's see, it's in L, and it's not looking in L. This is the annoying part sometimes. But I still think this is some of the more fun stuff. Just always finding these sort of errors and figuring out how to fix them, or recognizing what they are. Okay, so we might want like a pass-fail comparison per person on maybe like a pie chart. The graph would do too. But I think a graph would be nicer for like 4 or 5. Well, I mean, you could argue like a pie chart as well for that. You know what would be interesting though? So this actually might come in handy here. So, well, maybe just this number, or actually, yeah, these individual ones. So let's say, let's focus on player 1 here. So we'll go ahead and pretend that this is all player 1. So they have charisma, strength, whoops. Did not fix that from the last time. All right, there we go. So we have a check type here, and we'll just fill out the requirements. We'll go no, yes, yes, no. Okay. And that should be working properly. There. Where's our strength? Here it is. Strength pass. Strength should have more than that, shouldn't it? What happened here? We should have filled all the requirements. STR fail. STR fail. Yeah, something's wrong. I do wish that it would highlight on this side so you can see what it's checking. I mean, I know what it's checking by looking at it, but it would be nice to see the highlight there. I was looking for player 1, which is correct. And then it's comparing it against that, which is fine. Now it's looking for strength fail. And it's looking for it right there. And we know that's what's happening because we can see the pass is working, which means we'll have, do we have any fail checks? Yeah, fail is working. I just dragged it down, so unless I've added a space here or something that I don't see. Well, this is always a good try sometimes if we just pay special there. What? That should not ref. So paste just the values in here. Okay, so it's something else that's not working properly. Is it specifically with strength? So if we do, we'll do whiz, const, and int. So this was an int fail, int pass, and then do pass, fail, pass, fail. Okay, so do we have a charisma fail on here? No, so we'll make this charisma fail. Okay, so, and we don't have dex in here either. Or dex pass. Do we have a whiz pass? Yeah, we do. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so it's working on some of these, but it's not catching other ones. Let's see, nothing wrong there. So it's probably not the best way to do a check, is probably part of it, but let's see. So we have our char pass, which is getting counted here. Char fail. Now dex pass, we do have a dex pass. And it's not a spelling error. I'm going to just try dragging this down because maybe I didn't. No. So that's working. What is going on here? This is just a count. Well, actually, better yet, we're going to do evaluate. Because something just isn't working. Okay. Can I get it to show that, I wonder? I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's see. Can I like zoom in on that? How do I... Well, regardless, you might be able to see that there. It doesn't look great just yet. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we have our evaluate here. That's actually easier for me because it kind of zooms in there. But let's see what's going on here. So first thing it does is checks for player 1. It checks it there and then fails. Ah. Wow, that yeah, that would cause a problem. Yeah, if I didn't fill that part out. Well, that was a waste of time. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that was an easy fix. So, let's see here. Now we have this data. So, here's what I'm thinking. I think this would work. Or how would it work? I want to use a web graph, basically. 1 second. All right, I'm back. Okay, so what I was thinking, right? It's you know what? Let me change the window here so we can actually see some more. Whoops. Probably want to be able to shoot. Now there's nothing on the screen. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. And then, ooh, that's a little too zoomed in. How do I unzoom that? So like can I just double click this? No? There we go. Okay. We're back to normal, everybody. I'll have to mess with those windows later. Actually get those working properly. Okay, let's see. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're going to stop showing this one and move this over so that it's a lot bigger. And that damage dealt went way over to player 1. I want to use... I don't even know what that's on. I want to use a radar. And I want to use this data. So if I remember correctly, a radar works like this. You have two things. You have item 1 and item 2, and you have cat 1, and we'll just do 2, 3, 4. I have 5 categories. Does it say 10? I don't know. 1, 5, 6, 2. And then this is 10 all the way. And we'll call this, I don't know, cat. I believe you do this. And you should be able to get an interesting sort of radar here. So this looks kind of weird. However, let's say item 2 was total. And then instead, this was, say, your charisma, your dex, your int, your stir, and we're going to skip wisdom because it doesn't fit right now, cont. So it's like that. So this represented the total. Like that. And then this, I don't know why that didn't move out properly, would equal something like this. Equal char, equal dex, equal int, equal strength, equal wisdom. Okay, that looks terrible. I was hoping that was going to look a lot better. That doesn't even add up. Okay, this should actually this should actually be this, comma, this, comma this, comma this, comma this. This would actually be 6. And we'd want all of these, annoyingly, to be locked in. So instead, I'm going to do this. We're going to just move these. I want like a graph that will show some sort of way to see what you're playing to, in a sense. And that just looks annoying. So we'll fail. There we go. Okay, that's a little better. This still looks kind of wonky. But now, instead, we can actually do an all equals and lock it in. Or, I swear, every time I think about this, it can always just be like a little bit simpler. I mean, like, seriously. Why we didn't do this at the start is beyond me. Okay, and we'll do grand total. Again, I don't know if this will come in handy, but as we just saw, found that there was maybe a use for some of this. So now we can just, I mean, obviously it's already in order, but we can do that instead. So maybe this will provide something of use. Maybe. I don't think this would change if this was divided by the total here. Should be the, oh boy. I'm silly. I would need to do that. And lock it in. I am losing my mind here a little bit. So, should probably, I can just, there's absolutely no reason to do it like that. I'm just doing 100%. It keeps it even at least. But I'm pretty sure that it looks exactly the same if I did the number versus a percentage, though maybe a percentage provides slightly more detailed information. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, this isn't too bad. You usually see it this even anyway. So this would, instead of be total, this would be, what do we call these? Like check use? I don't know. Something like that. But we could get this, change that to player 1 stat usage or check usage, or I don't know what you call it really, like a check usage pass, something like that. I think that provides some, I think this is useful, though we might be able, with the use of 100%, we might be able to say add 1 in here. I don't actually know what a web graph would look like this if we add the fail here. So this would just be, check this, divided by its own total. And lock it. Didn't forget this time. Okay. Now, so we'll go pass fail. I don't remember if I can just... what? Can I drag this over? It might let me. No, I can't. Okay. I might be able... I'm not, like, amazing with graphs yet, but I know I can just delete it and insert a new one. So, it may not be the best way to go about it, but that's okay. Now, what the hell is that? Oh, it's assuming I want the other side of it. This might be interesting, actually. Yeah, you know what? I kind of like this. Now, obviously, it doesn't have a lot of information here at the moment, but it would be interesting to say, like, let's say I had like 5 failures here, but you know, I keep passing on my strengths, and maybe, what the hell's caught? Did I just... Why isn't there a cont pass in here? I can't believe I forgot about cont. Wait, what is this even dividing by? Oh my gosh. Wait, what? Am I blind? How do I have a cont pass but no cont fail? Weird. I think I should still be able to just drag this down though. Yeah. Okay, that works. Now I don't know if it'll just let me drag this down. Oh, well, it would probably be helpful if I had the stats in here. And I don't have wisdom fail in here for, again, some reason. I just, this is amazing. I really have no idea what happened there. Okay, but the stats are in, so we have everything now. That's not proper. There should be up 1. Probably, nope, not with that. And, okay, we drag it down. Except for this. I don't know why that went 200. That just happens to be how it is. That looks kind of cool. But I think that this is actually, this might be something that's kind of interesting to see. So, category, or check. There we go. And it breaks out the percentages, which is nice. So we can control B that. I enjoy this one. See, this is something that I think is really neat. So with this graph, and I think I'm probably going to end it here because we are getting pretty long. Like 2 hours is really stretching it. We'll go ahead and get rid of that. So I think this is a neat graph because what we can do here is compare our checks, so our passing checks, and what we sort of rely on the most, and what we pass on the most, versus what we fail with the most. So, I don't know if we can add something else to sort of say, like, this is our pass or fail, but then we could add one more in here, I think. And I do like this gray border, but it would be the, like, how do you say it? Like a reliance roll? Like just that you did a check itself. So it would just be, I'm not sure what I would call it yet, but it would be just simply that you rolled it. So it would be like that. So we got pass, fail, and did a check. So this would then be divided by the grand total. We actually found a use for it. How about that, huh? So this, absolute. That doesn't make sense. Well, we got to do order of operations. There we go. Now, because I once again do not know how to just add something, well, let's see. Right? Okay. Anyway, we'll just delete that. We'll go ahead and throw one more graph in here. Let's see. Go back to insert. It's called check twice. Probably don't want that. Pass, fail. I don't know. Thing. That's better. That's 100% better. Super good. And we go back to our radar. Now, what I'm thinking here is that our thing part should show us something. I'm trying to think about exactly what it will. I don't know what the difference between these two is. That's a little point there. That's just pointless. It looks kind of cool, but it's pointless. I like this one. I think little circles there are cool. Okay. So, what does thing tell us? Because I want some way to show what we are usually relying on. Like in this case, we can see that we mostly roll for charisma and strength. Now, because of how I have the data here, these both appear like that. But I want this to be higher. Like I want it to be more. So in a sense, like it wouldn't be like I'm not I want this to be on the outer ring so that it would be greater than these. So I mean, really, this looks like it's really just taking like the average in a sense, or the middle point between 10 and 50, which is 30, I think. 30, yeah, it is 30. So that is kind of what's happening here, which I guess that makes sense because you're saying 6 divided by 20. So you're just taking it to the total. And of course, we're relying on all this stuff being the same. So that does make sense why it's working that way, but that isn't exactly what I wanted to show. So thing might not be a super useful one. I might be able to think of something for it to show the idea of you use this the most somehow. But I think that this information, though, I think this is actually pretty neat. I might take away the dots. The dots may not add much to it, but that's that for now. And I think we're going to go ahead and end it here today because we just riffed. That's always a good one to end it on, huh? All right. So, well, thank you for watching. I know this was a bit of a longer stream, but I wanted to try and get something done, and I think we got a little bit done here. We got more of the sort of just legwork in here, and now we can start to build the graphs and see what kind of data we want to pull and ensure that things just look proper and figure out where we want all this, because, again, this is just for all the data we want to pull more information for, present in a different way. So I think we'll do that next time. So maybe, I guess it'll be part 4. before we finish this. So thanks for watching. I'll see if I can't figure out a title card for next week. And I guess just as a note, this will be the first week where I marketed myself a little bit on Twitter. I got exactly 1 like, which is more than I was expecting, actually. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, let's see. I'll go ahead and check the analytics here just for the curiosity of it, because why not? Let's see, view tweet activity. We got 29 impressions and 1 engagement. I don't actually know what that means. I'm not sure what an impression is. Oh wait, there's a little thing here. Let's see, times a tweet was seen on Twitter. Okay, so people scrolled past it without thinking. Okay. But 1 person actually looked at it and liked it. So that's pretty cool. So I think we're going to go ahead and call it on that. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.